think in my plan and she I didn't want to touch that. So I was walking to say that now, what we
Video.
Hi. Susan.
I don't think anyone is.
Okay. Nobody's zooming yet.
I'm early. So I'm giving a show. Okay, Marvel. Scientist.
There's a lot of shame.
Yeah. Oh, those black and white. They are. Those are my favorite. Just.
Yeah. I don't.
They're beautiful.
It's scary. You know, fires. Scary.
Well, I just thought I'd do a walk around.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's,
No one's in yet.
if anyone comes.
Yeah.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Great.
Good. Hi.
Hi,
Hi. What's your last name?
Knack, N-A-C-K.
What?
Knack, N-A-C-K.
N-A-C-K. Hi, Katie Neck.
Yeah, I would be there. I just got off of work, so I didn't. No time to drive to Oshkosh.
Katie's from Sheboygan, right? Sheboygan?
Yep.
Sheboygan. The
Yep,
last time I saw
Sheboygan.
you were at Lee's.
Yes.
Yes.
Honey, I'm in the meeting. People in the meeting.
So we're early here, so I'm still
Yeah,
waiting
no worries.
the 7 o'clock. So the show is looking good. Do you see it? Good.
Yeah. Wish I could have joined, but
That's okay.
you know.
That's okay. Not always possible.
I keep myself muted just in case because my kids are crazy. So
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. I have I flip this up and I mute myself. So yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have snacks.
You're going down to the paper flow. Make it happen. But anyway, yeah, like a three that
Man, these are beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Steve, Pat has a paper to sign in. Thank you. Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. This is nice. Oh. We have. Yeah.
Cheese?
Oh, I want some.
Oh, okay.
Do I just, put my plate away. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Chris. Oh, hi, Terry. Glad you could make it. Really? Elizabeth, zooming in is Katie Knack.
Yep.
Yep, Katie Knack.
I'll update my name if I can.
And
There we go.
I'm passing around a paper here of those that are here because there's family and friends and neighbors. So I'll send you that list, Elizabeth. Because it will,
Perfect, thank you.
do introductions in the gallery with so many other people here too. And hi Leslie, nice to see you.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, Steve's here, there's Leslie. Here. And but the pastels are absolutely outstanding. I did do a walk around with the Zoom and recorded it. So there's a walk around of the whole show that I'll send with some of the pictures. But they're really beautiful. So we're just waiting for her to begin her talk. There's not too much of a meeting. As I went through what I had to talk about, there's not a lot. Oh, hi, how are you? You have a cane now. Instead of
4 weeks from a knee replacement. I don't need it much longer, but I walk a long distance and I need it.
Okay, good. Good to see you. So that's Catherine Dreyfus. But she'll begin her talk soon, I think. So we'll just hang in there. It's just great. Yeah, they're really beautiful.
Striking, yeah. And I like the addition, I was just telling her, I really like the addition of the signs with the scientific, the real stuff. It's like, yeah, this is not always a good thing. Very intense.
Anyone wants to grab some more documents, feel free. And, I set up some barriers for major things. And then.
Couple people showed up.
Yeah, there's a few. And Leslie Walfish will make an introduction.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Leslie Walfish. I'm the gallery directors of the two art galleries here in the Arts and Communication Center of UW-Oshkosh. And I am thrilled to have you all here. We love to invite members from our community to all of our events. And you are actually at the very last visiting artist we have of the school year. We usually have exhibitions about once a month in each of our two spaces. So you can always follow us online at the Ellen Creevy Gallery on Facebook or at uwosh.artgalleries on Instagram to find out events we have, as well as check out our website. It's UW-Oshkosh Ellen Creevy Galleries. I'm thrilled to invite you to the reception of Jan Smith. Her exhibition, Storming, What a Wonderful World, opened yesterday. And so you are a wonderful kind of early group to come and check it out. And we're very lucky to have Jan here, who is going to speak about this body of work. and just share some information. And I have to apologize. I wrote the labels incorrectly. So do notice that they say oil pastels, but that's on me. But they're not oil pastels, they're soft pastels. So I will be changing those, and I'm sorry. But that's sometimes I make mistakes. But please help me in welcoming Jan Smith for speaking about her exhibition here now.
She did a fantastic job, so no worries about the oil pastel. She teaches, she runs a lot of things and is on every committee possible, probably good. So, and hung the whole show herself in a day and a half. So I appreciate everything you did. So my thanks to Leslie for allowing me to participate here. This was just a great opportunity to introduce people to my work, for me to see a body of my work framed and get it all out there in one space. So I'm just grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of you who came, all of my friends, my family, just people I haven't seen in a while. So I'm very appreciative of that. Students who've come. And I want to keep this informal, so please ask questions if you need to along the way. I also want to thank the Menominee and the Whole Chunk Nation. There's a land acknowledgement for the property that we are on here. I've been dealing more with this as I've gotten involved in some volunteer work in the community, and we try to recognize at each of our volunteer meetings that we are on borrowed land. Actually, we're on stolen land. So I appreciate the chance to honor that in this space with the ideas of how we can take better care of the earth with those people who came before us and did so well. This work started just after my retirement. During the pandemic, there was so much going on. Summer of 2020, that was the summer of tons of wildfires. There's California, there were wildfires in Canada, Australia. So that was making the news. That was just horrific looking. That was the summer of George Floyd, and this social political strife that was going on. We just had so many challenges going on around the world. So storming became sort of my way of recognizing all that turbulence, and landscape became my metaphor for that. So working in landscape is something I've always done. I've found, even going back to some of my early work, I've thought back to my undergraduate. Brett was asking how long I've been painting. It's been on and off for a long time, but as a student, I worked in landscape primarily. And either did some things abstracted or surrealism, but it was always derived from landscape in some way. And then for my graduate show, when I worked on my master's, I realized I used the storming theme. I brought some old pieces, tornadoes, to deal with turmoil that I was personally going through at the time. But again, landscape and weather as an opportunity to talk about emotional impact in a way that might be a universal message. So in a way, the show is somewhat chronological in groups. The 8 panels that are over there are were derived from photographs that I would take as I was driving back and forth a 60-mile drive to when I was working in Manitowoc. And I love the drama sometimes of the skies and the landscape. And I had we wanted to turn them into something at some point in time. And eventually, this is what has happened. I've been working, I think they started out in watercolor with a watercolor underlayer, and then gradually worked over them more in soft pastel to get what I wanted. And you'll notice that a lot of the pieces are sort of compartmentalized in this way. And I've either done that physically by putting pieces in small segments and then hanging them together, or I have divided up the surface of the piece to kind of, in a way, reflect episodes, various episodes and things going on at different times, but then also simultaneously, and also kind of adjust people's ways of looking at work so that there's a way of segmenting and taking in a detail and paying attention to something in a smaller space, and then trying to have your mind put it all together as you look at it and make some sense out of that. And some of it gets a little serial as well as the pieces behind Brian on that wall. So similar landscapes, different approach, dealing again with the simplicity of how the skies can communicate and create such drama and expanse. I love looking at this. Sometimes I love sitting and looking out in rainstorms and dealing with that kind of just vibrancy and power. The firestorms, again, as I was absorbing the news, the devastation that was going on, were generated out of the turbulence of the landscape, and again, the turbulence of what was going on socially, politically, but certainly when the losses that people were experiencing when they were having to evacuate, the frightening aspects, and you wonder what has happened to people beyond this impact. I started out, believe it or not, with photographs from just my neighborhood, but wanted them to still convey some kind of universal aspect to the storms and the trauma that people might be experiencing as they go through this and the devastation, and start at some point getting across the idea that the devastation is somewhat related to our own behavior and what we're doing. Come on in. This was a sketch as just getting an idea together to maybe work on a couple of other things where I segmented some of these ideas, isolated the feeling of a living space, something that's being surrounded, something that is just demonetized. I'm looking for the word that makes it so much smaller by the grandiose nature of nature, the power of nature. So how we can be so impacted and powerless when dealing with nature. The same here, working with this series. It's the title was kind of chosen on that for that reason, bigger than all of us. Something that's out of our control, something that we hope to control by maybe changing some of our climate related behavior. But when it finally hits us, there is nowhere to go. So we are really powerless against the forces of nature to some degree. And that's kind of the story in a lot of these. Episodic to some degree, how we might feel isolated from this when we are not concerning ourselves and living our everyday lives, but if it hits, and we are powerless against it. So this one is titled Encroachment. Again, something sort of sneaking up on you. This piece, sometimes I work to kind of resurrect old pieces. This was an old piece that I think I had worked and reworked and worked and reworked. It started out as a watercolor, and then I set it aside and painted it, and then pulled it out a few years later and looked at it again, would paint a little bit more on it, didn't like it. And finally started to combine the pastel with watercolor over the surface. And it was really taken from photographs in my neighborhood, again, looking at my surroundings, and a long stretch of road, busy road that runs outside of our subdivision. But I started to think about how would that look if I was impacted by a storm or a fire, and what would be the escape? How would I be able to get out? And so little by little, the field behind is starting on fire, the road is starting on fire. And that would have been my main escape route. And these are dry fields. This again, a watercolor pastel combination, a piece that I was trying to rework and finally come up with something that felt like negligence that we might create if we're not tending a fire, if we're not paying attention to a fire, leave embers burning and something smoldering, and we just evacuate and walk away. So something that would have been fun, something that would have been great camp afternoon or something is a pending disaster. In this particular piece, it's pastel, no watercolor, pastel pencil, and just trying to deal with a variety of threats that surround us, from ice melt causing climate, caused by climate change, drought, and different ways that climate change. I wanted to take a look at drought in a way that didn't just look at dry land or withering plants or something like that. And as I was flying out to my son's in California, I was so intrigued by just looking out the window at the landscapes and recognized that there are places that are so deserted. The desert is just so dry, almost uninhabitable, and started thinking about that in terms of drought. So these were images taken from an airplane of the Sierra Nevada mountain range as I was trapped, and wanted to turn them into something more challenging that would speak to climate in a different way, from a different point of view. Any questions so far? Those are all pastel. These are pastel. I was having fun taking pictures when Scott and I were on a walk, a hike around Granite Peak. We're on the backside of that. There was a quarry back there. The quarry reminded me of spaces that were mountainous, and there was more rubble back there, and the ground was very dry and kind of withered looking, and the stone itself looked very withered. So as I took photos from the mountaintop. I was getting a variety of views that I thought, these could really be anywhere. And I really enjoyed that feeling of being in Wisconsin, but I could be admiring a landscape, standing out in, I don't know, Wyoming or Colorado or something, and get that same feeling. So those were sort of a test along this series. And as I continued with the drought issues, the climate issues, I started to try to turn around that thinking a little bit, and again, taken from the walks at Grand Peak, there were just beautiful, beautiful lush landscapes there, and I thought, well, it starts looking a little, maybe a little too realistic for what I really wanted to do, but at the same time, started to make me think of a world that we are destroying, and a world that needs to be taken care of. So these are sort of positioned as what would we miss if we don't take care of this beauty. So it's bringing to be an episode of beauty, just one small snapshot to the viewer, to just remind everyone of what we have around us to take care of and be present for, similar with this. And then this is an odd outlier, so I even just mentioned that in some of the text. This looks like it's completely different from everything else in the show, and it is. And it was the point where I was really at kind of an impasse, wanting to, move in some direction that started to explore color a little bit, color changes, use the flower forms again as an idea of, documenting something that is frail and something that could be changed, missed if we don't take care of our surroundings. But as I worked on the color choices, I'm trying to work through other ways of bringing some of this information out. And so my next series may start incorporating some of these colors in a way that start showing changes that are actually happening through more of the science aspect, infrared photography or something like that. So this was an experiment, but I decided to include it anyway because of just wanting to open up some of the thinking that goes on in artists' heads sometimes by wanting to make some changes, wanting to get out of a rut that you feel like wanting to do something a little different. So, and that. What I wanted to do also with this exhibition was to make something participatory. I wanted to make an impact by sending a message that we can all take away from this. We can do something to recognize our contributions to climate and what we can do to change our own behaviors. But I wanted to send some hopeful messages out into the world too. So I came up with the idea of a prayer flag taken from the Tibetan prayer flag cultural option, and just thought if we did something on that order where people send hopeful messages out into the world, that this could be some sort of lasting way of conveying our inner thoughts out into a reality and make a difference. So I invite you to sometime during the evening, pick up a piece of cloth and a marker of your choice and write a message and tie it to the structure. I'm hoping to put those together in another form at some point in time. I'm not a sewer or a crafts person, so I'm looking for a little help. And the last thing that I have, and not the least, is a video that we can maybe turn up the volume a little bit. I had used this as a way of sending an additional message, adding in some of the science and some of the scientific facts with some images of the work, overlaid with a constructed piece of music that my son had developed for me. So I hope you'll enjoy that. And it's just on a loop, so it'll keep going. Sign the guest book, ask me questions, and do a little drawing. There's a sketchbook over there as well. So welcome your comments and your thoughts and wishes. So any questions? Yes.
I'm always interested in material, so did you do these on dark paper?
I did these on black pastel paper. So I used, in a lot of these, I'm using a sanded paper, since they're soft pastels. So that's black, those are black on black paper. This is on cream paper. And I purchased some jars of the ground that you can paint on a paper of your choice. So I've used Arches watercolor paper and just painted that with the ground, and those come in different colors, a sand, a gray, kind of a clay color, a terracotta color. So those provide a nice option. Yes.
It's really interesting how vibrant the white comes out.
Oh, yeah,
A
yeah.
little bit of color in some of those.
Pardon?
A little bit of color that you got in some of those.
So that made it fun to work on.
You mentioned Arches water. I was wondering how that is to work with pastel, watercolor paper.
Yeah, it doesn't have as much tooth as something like the sanded paper. So you can't work it as much or get as much color overlay, but it will still pick up some. And then I put the nice thing about that is it blended easily into the watercolor surface. So that worked out nicely for me, unexpectedly. By saying tooth, I have a few people probably wondering what that means. It means that the paper has the ability to sort of grab the chalk dust and hang on to it because of its roughness or the surface. And I like that to use with the soft pastels because I can build up the color options that way.
I'm gonna use those.
I have a question.
Sorry.
Hello. I have a question.
Okay, there's many people with questions. Leslie.
Okay.
What's your question?
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Thank
You
you.
look great. I have a question, particularly about the piece directly behind you. How did you compartmentalize that? Is that paper on paper? Did you tape it off? How did you do that? Because I'm not there to see it in person.
Yeah, it's matted first with a white line down the middle. So that's the mat. And it's a cut mat. The image is two pieces of paper butted together. So the white mat is over the edges of the paper. The painting is painted to the edge with the exception of some of the borders. And then these lines here are thin strips of painter's tape. Our artist tape.
Perfect. I was curious about that because it's so well done. Thank you.
Oh, and then, yeah, just blurring that out in some spots. Yeah.
I had a question. Pastels, they're dusty. Do you fix them or do you not fix them?
For a long time, the person who was doing my framing just hated to touch them, because I hated to fix them. I hadn't successfully found a fixative that wouldn't change the color or create little dots around as you would spray it. It's just like little splatters. So I finally, after buying multiple cans of different kinds, I finally found one. Sennelier has a really nice fixative. They also make the soft pastels, so they better be in the good business of doing that. And that has worked really well without changing color. It's archival and it doesn't leave little splotches on your work. So I've started using a fixative so that when you take them to frame them, they don't all the dust doesn't come off and fall to the bottom of the frame. Yes. Anything else?
Oh, well, there is, do you apply your watercolor first and then the pastel over it?
Yes, yes. Once the pastel is down, I wouldn't be able to paint over that unless I was using a heavier paint like an acrylic, maybe. But then the dust would probably not allow the paint to bond to the paper. So yeah, the watercolors first.
Just a question, that same subject, that big one with the blue sky.
Yeah.
That's over.
Yeah.
Is the white haze made by pastel or is it just less water?
It's a little of both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, but probably the real hazy blend in here. Out here, it's less water. In here, it's pastel over.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, thanks.
Do you use your finger or a stump or?
I used to use my fingers until I realized, with this stuff that has, heavy metals in it, this probably isn't a great idea long term. I tried using gloves and I hate working with gloves on. And I've got a stump and that doesn't quite do the trick. So I found these really cool little tiny sponges that are kind of shaped like palette knives. And just use those. They come in different shapes. They're rounded, flat edge, pointed, and they're just terrific. Like having a little paintbrush. So.
Just looking at that painting right there, from the distance, it's much, and really is more powerful standing back and looking at it. Because then you can see the width of it. It's really impressive.
Oh, thank you. I wanted it to be sort of ominous. Thank you.
Are there for styles or demonstration?
That's a nice question. I appreciate that. And throughout my art career, there definitely were people who I really loved their landscapes, and they were not necessarily realistic painters. My favorite painter is Richard Devenport. And then some of the other Bay Area painters, Nathan Oliveira, I really like. Wayne Thiebaud, the way he applies the paint. So for this work, no, I can't say that there were artists that inspired me necessarily, but the method of painting, if I'm painting in watercolor, I worked with a man in my undergraduate and graduate work named Lawrence Ratzak. He did lots of watery gray paintings. Wore gray. He had a great car. I just loved him because he taught us to do an incredible wash and layers of wash that you could get some incredible depth. So I've never been good at just splashing down watercolor and doing these quick paintings like, you'd see on the Magic of Oil painting or something. So, mine are more belabored and they take a while. And they end up with about 40 layers of thin washes over. But that was the richness that I would get from, that learning experience. So. Anything else?
Just curious, which is your most recent work?
The most recent works are over in that direction.
Oh, okay.
And that piece. So.
They're absolutely beautiful.
Those walls. Oh, thank you.
They're all beautiful.
So you said you'll be adding to the series a little bit more? or-
Yeah, going kind of a little different direction. I've been trying to explore, how to combine more of a science with this and in a science sort of statement without, the literal landscapes. So, I've been looking at maps and I've been looking at, infrared photography, and that photography has been, it's not only wonderfully colorful, but it starts to take a look at changes that the human eye can't see, but the photograph picks up in terms of what's happening to the land due to the changes in climate. So might explore that a little bit more. Thus the crazy colors on the other end. But simplify, maybe try to simplify some of the details. I don't go too picky. Anything else? Let's see, this one was probably finished. Since it was something that was resurrected. Yeah.
If you're finishing up, I'd just like to ask for any WVA members who are here to see Pat Filson over there to sign their name to the sheet. So we have a record, please.
Thanks, Jan, for sharing. Thanks for making this happen
as well. It's really great to have you here. Thank you.
Okay, Leslie. We're going to close down. Hi, Leslie.
Okay, that's fine.
That was
I understand.
recorded,
limited.
so I'll be putting it, I did some detail shots around. So you'll be able to see them closer up.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, especially considering my limited mobility. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming and listening in. And
Nice job, Chris.
Yeah,
I don't know,
excellent.
I hope you heard it okay.
Yes.
And hope you saw things okay. It's a little hard
Definitely.
to see what you're seeing, but they're absolutely beautiful to see.
How long is it around that we
What?
can get there? How long will it be around that we can get there to see them in person?
I'd have to look at my newsletter
Oh, okay. If it's there, I'll see it.
to know for sure. But
And
we
do you
have,
know, is it open during the week every day
yes,
or?
it's open during the week. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, the hours are there too.
Felt
And
a little sick tonight, so I couldn't come. I just decided better turn around and go home.
And there's a show downstairs that we took pictures of that we'll just pop them in. But and then Terry Wapinski and David Graham has a show at the Lawton Gallery that has their closing reception this Thursday if you get up to Green Bay. And another wonderful show at New Arts to see. But we'll be in touch. Oh, there was one change. The main talk at Idea Gallery with Dan Cross is going to be the Tuesday instead of the Saturday. So it's the Tuesday before the Saturday. And I'll put that out there he had to change the date. Okay?
Great.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris. Bye-bye.